Hey, welcome to another video. In this video, we're gonna get started on the workshop level. With that, let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the camera, the plane, and the light source, and then we're gonna Control C, head over to Maps, Workshop, open up the workshop level, and then click in the empty space and Control V, and then we're just gonna move out, and then we're gonna save everything, and then in here we're gonna right click, blueprint class, actor, and there's gonna BP underscore workshop. And then when I open this, dock it to the top, head up to the content, blueprints, and in here we're gonna make another game mode. So right click, blueprint, game mode base, and this is gonna be GM underscore workshop. And then we're gonna save this, head over to the game mode override, set this to the GM workshop, and then we're gonna create a player controller. So right click again, blueprint class, player controller, and then this is PC underscore workshop. Save this as well. Head over to the detail panel of the world settings. Under the player controller class, set this to the PC workshop just created, and then open this up, and then head over to the event graph. And then in here, we're going to do the same as we've done with the other player controllers. So under the event begin play, right click, get game instance, take the game instance, drag off from the return value, and then cross to BPGI game. But before that, from the event begin play, drag off and then set show mouse cursor, set it to true, and then connect that to the cost. And then from the SBPGI game, drag off promote to variable, and then after this we are going to hold S, left click, connect that to the sequence, add an extra pin. From the then 0, drag off and then get all actors of class, and then the one we're looking for is the camera actor. From the out actors, drag off promote to variable equals cameras. From the then 1, we are going to drag in the as BPGI game, and then drag off, and then going to load blueprint structures, and then connect it to the then 1. This is just a precaution. And then for the last one, we are going to drag off and then set view target with blend, the target, drag off and then look for self, drag in the cameras variable, drag off and then get a copy, connect it to the new view target, and then we're going to compile, head back to the workshop level, content, widgets, workshop, and then in here we are going to right click, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and then this is going to be WPP underscore workshop, and then we are going to open up this as well. If we have enough time, we'll complete this. Head back to the player controller, drag off from the set view target with blend, drag off and then create widget. And then the widget we're creating is the workshop widget. And then from the create widget, the return value, drag off and then add to viewport. And then again from the create widget, drag off and then set input mode UI only. From the player controller, drag off and then look for self, and then just add redirect nodes. And then one thing I did forget to add is here by the load blueprint structure from the SBPGI game, drag off, and then we're going to load garage cars as well. And then that is it for the player controller. Compile, save. Then we're gonna head over to widget, quickly add a canvas panel, and then we're gonna add a button just to test out. Actually, let's just add an overlay. Select the overlay, head over to the anchors, Control Shift, and then let it cover the entire screen. And then now we're going to add a button to the overlay, and then this button we're going to keep it here in the top. I'm going to compile and then just test out whether this works. Hit the level, and you can see it is there's the button, so everything is working. And then before we move on, we're actually just going to go to the workshop blueprint. So in here, the event graph, first thing we're going to do is create a function. So you have a functions, create a function, and then this one is going to be load vehicle ID, and in the function we're gonna drag off and then look for does save game exist. The save game we're looking for is the vehicle ID, and then we are going to from turn drag off and then look for a branch, and then if it's true drag off and then load game from slot. Then the slot is the vehicle ID, Control C, Control P, and then we're gonna cost to the BP save game, and then we are going to get the vehicle ID, and then from here we're going to drag off and then promote this to a variable, and then connect the execution pin, compile, head over to the event graph. From the event begin place, just drag these two down a bit, right click, get game instance, drag off and then cost to BPGI game. From the SBPGI game, drag off promote to variable, and then we drag in the load vehicle ID function, and then we're going to take the as BPGI game, drag this in, drag off, and then get garage cars. In the garage cars, drag off and then get a reference, take the vehicle ID variable, drop that on the pin, and then from the kit, drag off and then break, then expand, and then we're going to look for the pawn, drag off from the pawn, and then we're going to spawn actor from class, select the break again, scroll down, hide unconnected, and then for the spawn location, we're going to drag in the default scene root, drag that in, and then we'll drag off and then get world transform, and then connect that to the spawn transform, connect the execution pin, and then from the return value drag off and then cost to BP tutorial, the primary vehicle, and then from the cost drag off and then look for the configuration custom event, and then that should be it. And then if all is well, if we play the level again, we should see our previously purchased car be spawned in. Okay, before we play the level, head back to the level, drag in the BP workshop, and then just go to the details, set that to the center, save all, and then now we're gonna play the level. Okay, so if you run into the same problem that I had here, what we need to do to fix it is from after the load vehicle ID, we're just gonna drag everything here, and then we're just gonna move this down out the way, and then after the load vehicle ID, we're going to hold S, left click, create a sequence, and then connect that, and then from the then zero, what we're going to do is we're going to take the as BPGI game, drag this in, and then from here drag off and then look for load garage cars, and then connect it to the then zero, and then from the then one we then connect this to the spawn actor. For some reason it seems to not work, I don't know why, but this is how it seems to be the solution to the problem. And then we're going to compile, head back to the level, take the blueprint actor, remove that from the level, save, drag it back into the level, and then we're going to save again. And then if we play now, then we can see the car has been spawned in. So I don't know for what weird reason it happens, but we've not found a workaround for that. And now we can save this, and then since this now works, we can work on the widget. So with this button, we're actually just going to leave this here, give it a padding on the left of 50, at the top of 50, and then this will then become the exit workshop button. So we're going to add a text onto this, and then we're going to add a text onto the button. I'm going to rename this button, set it to is variable, rename this to exit, change the text to exit workshop, and then we're going to leave it at that. We're going to take another text, add this to the overlay, and then this one we're going to position it to the top left. Also give this a padding on the right of 50, the top of 50, and then this is going to become the money variable. So we're going to go to the first, we're going to compile, head over to the graph, on the event construct, below that right click, get game instance, drag off and then cost to VPGI game, and then promote this to a variable, and then head back to designer, compile on the with the text block selected by the content, create binding, and set this to the money, and then we're gonna compile, and then the next thing we're gonna do is add a horizontal box. Oh, sorry, wrong place. The top horizontal box, add this to the overlay, and then the horizontal box we're gonna position this to the bottom and then fill. And then in the horizontal box we're going to add a size box, and then in the size box we are going to add a button, and then on the button we are going to add a text block, and then we're going to select the size box, and then we're going to do a width and height override, and then the width is going to be 28, height 162, then select the button, set it to is variable, and then we're going to change this button to performance, set the text blocks as well, performance, and then we're going to take the text block, control D, the next button is going to be go with paint, then the text block also set this to paint, select the size box, control D again, and then one more, expand these two. The third one is going to be the customize button, set the text to customize, and then the last one is going to be the garage button, set the text as well, and then we're going to select all the text blocks, set them to fill, and then we are going to add a padding of 10 on each one, then select the horizontal box, and then we're going to add a padding on the left and right of this one as well. I think something like 50 on the right and left should be fine. Oh, and then the bottom as well, maybe 20, just to kind of get it off the floor. Okay, I think 30 is fine. Okay, that should compile, play the level, we have 20, exit, and then we have the 3 buttons, and for some reason the poison spawned again. Okay, I'm going to try something. Let's see if this works. Just drag the configuration out the way, and then from the cost, drag off and then promote this to a variable. Just leave it as is, and then connect this up like that instead. Remove that, and then let's see if that is a more constant. Nope. Okay, so now the car is back. I hope this doesn't happen again. Let's see. If I go out, play it again. Okay, so the car is now being spawned. I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know. Sometimes it's just on the flip tables because of things like this. They happen occasionally, but it's part of the game. It's part of the game. And then that should be okay. Let's just do the widgets. I think we have enough time. Let's just quickly create the widgets as well. Gonna go content, widgets, workshop, and then right click in here, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and then WBP underscore performance. Take that one, control D. The next one is going to be paint, control D again. The next one is customize, and then we're not going to make one for the garage because that technically goes in here by the garage, but we're going to work on that. Let's just make it now since we're here anyways. User interface, flip a widget, and WPP underscore garage. Save all, head back into the widget, head over to the graph, and then we are going to select the performance, unclick, drag off, remove from parent, drag off and create widget. The widget we're looking for is the performance widget, and then add to viewport, and then do the same for the paint. Unclick, select that, control D, connect the execution pin, change the widget we're creating. This is the paint widget, and then we're just gonna remove this and then add to viewport. And then the next one is the customize. Unclick Control V, and then the widget we're looking for is the customize. Remove the add to viewport again, and then add to viewport. And then the last one is the second to last one is the garage. Unclick, remove from parent. Actually, no, don't even need to remove from parent. We just need to open the level. Open level by object reference, and then the level we're going to look for is the garage. And then for the exit, unclick, and then we're actually going to make a pop-up for this. Actually, let's go do it now. No point in where we workshop, right click, user interface, widget, user widget, WBP, what are you gonna call this? Exit. And then just gonna open this up. Then we're gonna add a canvas panel. On the canvas panel, we are going to add an overlay. And then on the overlay, we're gonna add a vertical box. Select the overlay, anchors, Control Shift, entire screen. The vertical, we're going to center this in the middle. Actually, set this to fill the entire screen horizontally. Then first thing we're adding is a text. The vertical, set this to the center. And then we are going to rename the contents to just call this exit workshop ellipses question mark. Then we're gonna have a button. On the button we're gonna have a text, and then this button we're gonna rename this to yes. Make sure it is a variable. And then on the text we're going to change the content, set this to yes, and then take the button, Control D, rename this button to no, change the text content to no, and then we're going to select the buttons. I'm going to add a padding of 10, and then the vertical box we're going to add padding on the sides, thinking maybe 100, just make it 100. We want to compile, head over to the graph, and then we don't need anything over there. We just need to select the buttons, on click, and if we press yes, then we need to open level by object reference, and then the one we're looking for is the open world. And then for the no, unclick, drag off, and then remove from parent, and then drag off, and then create widget. Then the widget we're gonna create is the workshop widget, and then we're gonna add this to the viewport. So then we're gonna compile, save, head back to the workshop widget, and then for the exit, I'm gonna drag off, and then remove from parent, drag off, and then create widget. Then the one we're creating is the exit, and then drag off, and then we're going to add to viewport. So I'll compile, quickly test this out, also see if the code to spawn in the vehicle is still working, and it's not. At least this code works. Okay, so I'm gonna have to look to find a permanent solution to this problem, but for now that is it for the workshop level. Everything except for the constant spawning of the player vehicle seems to work. Hopefully by the time I come around to the next video, I will have found a permanent solution to the problem. With that, that brings us to the end of this video, and until the next one.